Hello everybody, it's Mr. McGlinchey again. How are you today? We're going to do some fun science experiments with stuff you can find around the house. Today we're going to talk about water pollution, mostly about oil and water. The supplies we're going to need today for our experiment: a mason jar or a jar with a lid, a pitcher of water, one food coloring, and vegetable oil. I'll wait here while you go get your supplies. All right, now that you have your supplies, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open our mason jar, take a couple drops of food coloring, I'm just going to put them in the water so you can see the water a little bit better. Now I'm going to pour that right into the mason jar. And now I'm going to put oil into it. What do you think is going to happen when I pour the oil in? Are they going to mix? Is one going to sit on top of the other? Let's find out. What happened when I poured the oil in, is, as you can see, the oil sits on top of the water. The first time I did this experiment, it was to talk to kids about what happens when there's an oil spill. Way back when, there was an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. It was a big one. And I was talking to our children about how they were going to clean it up and how the oil sat on top of the water. But the oil doesn't just sit on top of the water. Let's make sure that cap is really tight so we don't spill anything. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to shake it. Make pretend it's waves. What do you think is going to happen? Well, let's give it a go. Now for a little bit, you can see that the water and the oil have combined. But watch what happens as we give it some time. What do you think will happen? Just looking at my experiment, I notice a couple things right off the bat. Down on the bottom, it's much darker blue. So there's not as much oil in there. And then there's a second layer. The second layer is where there's a lot of oil in the water and they haven't separated yet. It's a lighter blue. And then on top of that, it's even lighter. It's almost a shade of green. Aquamarine, I guess I would call it. And that's mostly oil. What's important to realize is that even though it looks like the oil is all on top, the oil gets into everything. Try it at home. So as you can see, the oil and the water separated. After we shook it a little bit, the water and the oil mixed. The oil starts to separate again, go up higher. But there is still some oil in the bottom. Now the problem with that is, when you start talking about lakes and rivers and oceans, the oil contaminates plants, and animals and causes real damage to our environment. So this is why we have to be careful with all sorts of oil spills and gasoline spills and be very careful and try and prevent them as much as possible. I hope you had fun doing today's experiment. Come back and see me, okay?